won't say it is a pleasure to join with you again, but it is the deepest honor to be here. Thank you for including me in these commemorations, this moment of grief and search for justice, as you have welcomed me and your families and your community over these terrible past 5 years. I want to thank Pega, High Commissioner Goodale, Mayor West, Yulia Kovalev, the ambassador from Ukraine, and all my fellow MPs and dignitaries who are gathered here today to remember and to commit ourselves once again to not letting your loved ones be forgotten, not letting the world move on without acknowledging, remembering, and striving to do justice by and for your lost loved ones. 5 years since that tragedy. 5 years fighting for justice, for truth. The path to justice is long. We have to keep working with our partners internationally and international institutions to hold the Iranian regimes accountable. We have to do that for many reasons, but top of my mind is, first of all, because justice is necessary to bring at least some semblance of closure. When you know that the perpetrators of this horrific act still walk free, are still free to oppress and murder their own citizens, to have a terrible impact around the world, you must and you will continue to strive for that. And it's also responsible because what you as families have gone through, what you as a community has gone through, what us as a nation, having lost so many of our beloved citizens, no one should ever have to go through again. As Pega reminded us, there are still terrible, terrible commercial airline incidents, as we saw recently. We need to continue to use all of our efforts to make the world safer, to make the skies safer. It's one of the many reasons why the work of the Association of Families of Flight PS752 victims is so important. The downing of the Azerbaijan Airlines flight shows that there's still so much work to be done to protect innocents from unscrupulous, murderous governments. Vos efforts, votre travail est crucial, pas seulement pour que justice soit rendue, mais aussi pour assurer la sécurité d'innombrables voyageurs et innocents qui prennent l'avion à chaque jour. Votre travail au nom de vos êtres chers a un impact sur des milliers, des millions de gens à tous les jours. International legal proceedings and procedures, as we all know, are slow, but Canada continues to take action. In 2022, we designated the Iranian regime as one engaged in terrorism, which made thousands of senior Iranian officials permanently and forever inadmissible to Canada. We imposed 19 rounds of sanctions on the Iranian regime. We listed the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist entity, making it a crime in Canada to contribute in any way to its actions, and we continue to push on all other G7 and other nations to recognize the IRGC for what it is. The Iranian regime continues to fail to meet any of its international obligations. So we will continue to work with international partners around the globe to make aviation safer. We're leading on the Safer Skies initiative, which brings together governments, international organizations, and the aviation industry. We're working with the International Civil Aviation Organization to make investigations more rigorous and transparent. It seems so obvious, but no country responsible for shooting down an aircraft should be also responsible for the investigation into how that aircraft crashed. Your advocacy is crucial on these issues, but also beyond. Thank you for speaking up against the Islamic Republic's blatant disregard for human rights, especially women's rights. As the world stepped up over the past years after the horrific killing of Mahsa Amini, it was so many of you, the families of Flight PS752, who were there at the forefront, organizing, catalyzing, and leading that extraordinary movement of Zan, Zendegi, Azadi that is so, so important, not just to Iranian women, not just to all Iranians, but to everyone around the world. Thank you for all your leadership in this. As I have every year, for the past 5 years, I connected this morning with a number of family members of Flight PS752 victims. We had true and difficult conversations, a lot of emotion, a lot of grief, obviously, but also a lot of resolve and determination to continue to push in every possible way, including continuing to push on this government, as you must, to make sure that we do everything we possibly can, from international organizations to lawsuits to sanctions to international court cases to memorials and scholarships, to so many different ways that we need to make sure that no one ever forgets your loved ones. No one ever forgets what the Iranian regime did on that horrific morning 5 years ago. I know you've all been through a lot. And I know that some of you at least were hoping that 5 years might be a moment in which it begins to hurt a little less to have lost your loved ones. And you're discovering today that 5 years is just a number. And the love and the grief that you feel is every bit as real today as it was 5 years ago on that horrific day you found out of this terrible, terrible tragedy. I wish I could tell you it does get better. I was reflecting on this over Christmas as for the first time I brought my kids out to the town where my little brother lived and worked before he was taken in a very difficult accident. I can tell you, I've now lived more years on this earth without my little brother than I have with. Over 25 years he's been gone, and the pain is still as present and as much a part of me as it was on that morning I woke up to the worst phone call of my life. But I can tell you that the grief becomes a part of you. It becomes something that is not just a difficulty you live with, it becomes a driving force in your life as well. To remember, to make sure others remember, to look for some good, something positive to come from a horrible, horrible event, to find moments of peace and of joy and of laughter in remembering, but mostly to commit yourself every day to doing right by them, to be carrying them, their drives, their hopes, their dreams, their lives in yours as well. And it's unbelievably difficult. But I can tell you what you have done here over these past 5 years and into the future is extraordinary to behold. And it's not enough, and there is so much more to do, and I am the first to recognize that and to continue with you. But you should know how much you have already done in the names of your loved ones and how much you will be able to continue to do over the coming years. As you all know, this will be my last time attending this event as your Prime Minister, but I have to tell you, it has been the deepest of honors to be able to be with you, to stand with you, to cry with you, and to accompany you in this fight against a terrible, murderous regime, and to tell you once again that you are not alone, that all of Canada stands with you in your grief and in your hope for justice and your drive to make the world a better, safer place for everyone. I know most of you just celebrated Yalda a few weeks ago. I was myself out in Vancouver celebrating with the community a number of weeks ago. And it's a moment in which you pull together to ensure that life and light triumph over darkness and death. And that moment of celebration and that ability to continue to celebrate and to remember what truly matters in family and in truth and in justice is one that inspires me and will continue to inspire me as I continue to grieve alongside all of you for many, many more years to come, regardless of what role I may or may not have. Thank you, my dear friends, for being part of this with me. Thank you for letting me.